in. Are you having a good time? Hell yeah.
Nothing like walking out of Lane Stadium with a
It's so nice to come off a win, enter a bye week, and it just so happens that that bye week coincides with some unbelievable football that is going to be played. We have a full house here today. Pat and Billy Ray are here. I'm wearing my Hokies Pep Band shirt in honor of Basketball Media Day taking place in the beautiful Queen City of Charlotte. Our Queens were there. Women's basketball went today. Will Trent took some great picks. I have my New York Mets hat on. They are playing right now and on my sidecar screen. But we're here to talk about everything going on in college football, do a little ACC, Big Ten, SEC. We got all sorts of stuff. We asked, do you guys want to recap what happened with the Virginia Tech season? We just talked about it on every podcast. You want to know what's happened this season? Go back and listen to some old episodes. You'll juice our numbers and you'll get some good information. Patrick, how are you doing, my friend? Collar on? What's up?
I love this polo. It's a good polo. But rowback is better. So
Casey Hamrick, our Ohio State affiliate in the Queen City. This is his third appearance on the podcast. Welcome back.
Doing my best. And if Jay and Hannah saw me with that many buttons on like Pat has, I'd be yelled at. So they would tell you to unbutton one of those.
What?
I got yelled at that. Got yelled at that at the tailgate. They said unbutton the button. So I had to unbutton them all.
You do have the bottom button done.
You're telling me that I can't have the bottom button done? That's
all I'm telling you is I was walking around Blacksburg having a great time, looking great. And I had a button, and they're like, why do you have that button? I was like, I don't think I'm going to let it all go. And they told me to let it go. So I did.
Okay. Well, they're not here.
So, Pat, do you want to kick us off with some updates from the Section 5 Club and some new members that we want to shout out?
Absolutely. Did you read the haiku?
I have not read the haiku. I can certainly read the haiku. I don't have who it's from. I believe this is from our guy, Pete McGee. Never take away college football Saturdays. They always amaze. Casey, I think you brought this up. I can't remember who it was. I said it on the last podcast. There's no such thing as a bad week of college football. When we were previewing this year, last week, we looked at the slate. A lot of people said, oh, crappy slate, throw it away. We're all on to the week after where there are great games are going to be on. I'll say it again. Every week of college football is a gift directly from God, and we all should be thankful.
No, it's really true. And I think as the years go on, I'm starting to realize more and more. I watch football all day on Saturday, and then I watch it all day on Sunday. The Sunday football just feels like it's getting worse and worse every single week. And the Saturday football is getting better and better. I feel really bad for those who don't have any college football allegiance or even try to get an allegiance to a team. The NFL football just does not compare. I'll watch it because you can gamble, you can play fantasy, whatever you need to do. But college football Saturdays are unmatched. There's always something going on, and you never know who's going to win.
You know, it's truly, I'm actually glad you brought this up. It's truly the pageantry, and it's truly the different. I get in this with my buddy Willie, and he's just like, dude, the NFL, man, the NFL is great. I enjoy watching the NFL. The pageantry is not there. Every single team is a cookie cutter version of the other teams. If you want to pick some standouts, sure. Kansas City's a little different. Seattle's a little different. Pittsburgh's a little different. They have a little different mojo. But the reason I'm going to compare it to the MLB right now. Major League Baseball, every team has a unique feel and a unique culture and a unique difference. Hockey is the exact same way. The NFL seems so, I can't think of a better word than corporate. There was a video circling on Twitter these last couple of days of the Alabama dead leg spin move in the UGA game, and they did the lights and everything. And it's just like that moment is a regular season moment between two football teams that is better than any regular season moment that will happen in all of the NFL. And college has that every week across different conferences, different teams. It's just not the same.
Yeah, really weird, too, that the closest thing you get to pageantry in the NFL almost makes you feel a little icky, if you will. Like you kind of turn on the Raiders game and you got grown men wearing those outfits, right? You got like, that's like the closest thing you get to like a college atmosphere. And it makes you feel weird because that dude's probably your accountant tomorrow, Monday morning, trying to take you through a meeting. So it's a little concerning. So they got to figure something out.
You got just some rough videos every single week. Sunday afternoon, one NFL fan is punching another NFL fan in the stadium. This happens weekly, and it's just a little weird. I do think NFL playoffs are appointment television. I also think the college football playoff in this 12-team expanded playoff is going to give the NFL playoffs not a run for its money, but I think I'm really excited to see how it compares just based on having more volume of games. The playoff right now, or previous to this year with 4 teams, it's just not that big in my opinion, but I think adding more teams into the mix, creating that home atmosphere for round 1, people are going to freak out about that.
Yeah.
I agree, Billy Ray, with your point. Everything just seems extremely manufactured and not super authentic that we do see, because culture is real. I do think the conference regionality is getting killed with conference expansion, and that is one of the things that makes this game great. Unfortunately, it's not moving in the right direction there. But I think it's hard to argue that this Saturday is going to be one of the better Saturdays of the year.
Section 5 club updates. Pat, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. You're going to have some NFL people who are upset about it. I hope none of our listeners are dressing up head to toe as a, I don't know what they'd be dressing head to toe up as, a Jaguar headed to a Jaguars game. Respect. I love that people love things.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit different.
It is.
If I never went to an NFL game ever again, I wouldn't be that upset.
Yeah.
But Section 5 Club announcement. We have been doing some giveaways this week. We are giving away a lot of Rowback this month to our Section 5 Club members. Shout out to some recipients, Jason Blanchett, Jansen Lee, and Donald Steele, who won this week's Rowback giveaway. You have some Virginia Tech Rowback on the way, and we are doing some more Clemson ticket giveaways this week to our Section 5 Club, doing some more Clemson ticket and I guess just general Boston College ticket giveaways on our Roots giveaway that will go out on social media over the next week as well for next week's game. So, guys, we are in the spirit of giving, not telling you that we are Santa sons, but do encourage you all to join Section 5 Club. We also have the Slam Jam going on next week, Billy Ray. Do you want to touch on that before we jump into other stuff?
Absolutely. Slam Jam next week. We're recording on Wednesday. Awesome opportunity to meet some new members of the men's basketball program. We have our guy Chris Jones in tow. He will be down in Blacksburg. So if you are interested in participating in this, it is an NIL fundraiser for men's basketball. If you are a business and you want to be advertised, we can send over some statistics on how it went last year. It went fantastic. If you are a person who cares about men's basketball and want to get involved from a donation perspective, hit us up. Slide in our DMs. You can shoot me an email. I'll give my email out. It's billyray@sonsofsaturday.com. Can't wait to get signed up for a bunch of weird newsletters. I'm sure some people will do that. But hit us up. Let us know. We'd like to have the roster finalized by Monday or Tuesday. Tuesday's kind of pushing it. But do let us know if you want to get involved. All right. Casey, checking in with you. Our middle of America. He gives us that middle of America vibe, but he lives here in Charlotte. But I do just want to check in. How you doing? Football team's playing really well. What's up with you?
Yeah, we're good. I think that the start to the season was honestly kind of what we needed this year. I know everyone's giving Ohio State a little crap because the preseason, if you will, schedule is not that great. Side note, Washington was scheduled on this year's season. No one wants to talk about that. They joined the Big Ten. Enough said there. But it's going to be a climb. So I think that going into Eugene, Oregon this week, really exciting. I'm excited that on paper it's a 2 versus 3 matchup. I have no idea what it's going to be like. I think I know what Ohio State is. I don't know what Oregon is. I think Oregon doesn't know what they are, but I think that every single year, every single game, we're going to get everyone's best game. So I don't expect a blowout, even though me and Billy have been teasing a 13, 15-point spread for fun. But if I had to bet, be a close game. people want to tell me how hard it is to play at Oregon. I'm running the math here. I'm pretty sure the stadium's half the size of Penn State, so I'm not too scared. But we'll see. Overall, feeling pretty good, but the college football's been good all around. Love to see a couple SEC powers go down and what I consider to be bad football teams. So I don't really know what the argument's going to be from the SEC loyalists, but it was a good week.
I love your ability to just, take an intro and make probably a lot of our listeners skin crawl, but we'll unpack all of these items as we go.
You didn't say introduce yourself. You said, how are you feeling about the season so far? And that's what I gave you. So
Pat, let's flip over to our futures check-in. Unless you had something else. Did you have something else on that?
Me or
yeah.
Casey?
You.
No.
Okay.
Have I pissed Pat off already?
Futures bet check-in. So they can be bad, they can be great, they can be awful. But where are we on our futures bets? Pat, you kick it off.
Okay. I am trending well in a few of these. Rutgers over 6 wins.
Nice.
They have 4. Nice. Virginia Tech over 8.5 wins. That's looking tough. Virginia Tech ACC championship. That's looking tough. Virginia Tech exactly 9 wins. That is looking tough. Ohio State national championship winner.
Call it what you will. Call it what you will. I mean, it's looking okay. It's looking okay.
A lot of ball to play. I would say that's my best one so far. And Rutgers over 6 wins.
Yeah,
I think Rutgers tough loss at Nebraska last week. I think they were in Nebraska territory 9 of 11 times, but only scored 1 touchdown. I did not get to watch the game. I did listen to a podcast about it, but
nice.
Yeah, it was a Sunday. Just had some stuff going on in the background. I know they have Illinois, they have Minnesota, they have UCLA at USC. So we'll see how they do. But what about you guys? What future bets do you feel good about? Which ones are flopping?
I am so excited for my Travis Hunter to win the Heisman Trophy, 25 to win 525. Is he going to win the Heisman Trophy? I'm not exactly sure. I got in at plus 2,000. He is now plus 320. I believe he is the second or third favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. We'll talk about this later. It's been the quarterback invitational. Colorado has been a little bit of a surprise these first few weeks of college football. They're trending better than most thought that they would. So I do have Travis Hunter 25 to win 525. Michigan under 8.5, waffling on that. I think it could happen. It couldn't happen. Louisville under 8.5. Got some locker room stuff going on there. Not really sure how it's going to trend. I feel solid about that. UVA under 4.5. They're at 3 right now. I don't think they're going to win another game. The rest of their schedule is
UVA's at 4.
They have 4. Perfect. I still don't think they're going to win another game. The rest of their schedule is brutal. It is absolutely brutal.
Will you double down on that right now? What's it at?
I would not double down on it because I think Calandria can just do weird stuff and just beat teams that he's not supposed to. I believe they have North Carolina coming up this week. But that's where I'm at. App State over 8.5, probably the worst one on this list. App State has been surprisingly bad this year. Virginia Tech, I got in on it early. I have over 7.5 games. I'm not going to say that I feel great about it, but I feel okay. If I'm going to be having fun on this podcast, that bet will cash. So plus 7.5 or.
So real quick, not to make it all about Tech this week, but like what besides Clemson, like what games are you really scared about?
I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm scared about them. It just depends. Like Pat has said this all year. We should be favored against every team that we play the rest of the way up until Clemson. I completely agree with that.
Other than
Clemson, excuse me. The fact of the matter is, if we come out and we play unprepared and we play sluggish, like we've had the tendency to do in the month of September, we could lose to Boston College. We could lose at Duke. We could lose to basically any of the remaining teams on the schedule. Yeah. Again, it's so funny that Virginia Tech has put themselves in a position to where before the season, we're like, I'm so glad that we don't have FSU on the schedule. I wish FSU was on the schedule. And I'm really glad that SMU, of all the schools, is not on the schedule. So.
Yeah. But if that Miami team comes out, for Virginia Tech, Miami, you realistically could win every single game.
100%. 100%. And then the last one that I feel really good about, Texas A&M to make the college football playoff at plus 225. They came out, did not play very well against a Notre Dame team that lost to Northern Illinois. Right now, Texas A&M, they're I know it's so funny. I know the JP poll better than I know the actual AP poll. They are in the top 15, trending up. I believe they sit at number 12. So Texas A&M, depending on the overall health, and I'm not even going to say health, the overall perception of the SEC, if they're able to finish in that top 4, they're going to give them a chance to go to the playoff. So we'll see what happens with A&M the rest of the way.
Yeah. I'll keep it short. My futures bets, they're pretty homer. There's only 2 of them. Ohio State National Championship, plus 700. Looks fine. And then I took Will Howard to win the Heisman because why not? Because I don't know who's going to win the Heisman. I mean, we could talk about the Heisman later too. It's currently a 2-man race, but both those 2 could be out of here in 3 weeks for all we know. So kind of wide open. I don't have a lot of non-Ohio State futures at the moment, though.
Love it. Let's move on to I love watching this team. Some teams that you absolutely love to watch. We can go one for one around the rainbow. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I love watching this. What am I gonna say?
Are you gonna say Miami?
No. I love watch. They're a great watch. I mean, whether you root for them or not, they've been in entertaining games the last 2 weeks. I'm saying the service academies, Army and Navy. You can rub your face all you want. Army is outscoring opponents essentially 40-10 in every football game they play. Navy is outscoring opponents 43-20. Navy's throwing for 170 yards per game. That's right. They're throwing for 170 yards per game. There are probably some seasons where they didn't throw for 170 yards the entire year. And they have 465 yards of offense every single football game. Blake Horvath, the Navy quarterback, has the top QBR in the country. They come out and absolutely beat the snot out of every single team they play. So this is my 3rd week doing this. I've done this new thing where I parlay Navy and Army to cover every single week. I'm 2-0. Navy's on a bye this week, so I am parlaying Army to win this week. But I have thoroughly enjoyed watching the service academies play football this year. Passing it to Pat.
Fun stat. There's a potential they play, what is it, like 3 weeks in a row or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. They could play in the Army-Navy game. They could play in the conference championship game that they are a part of because Army finally sacked up and joined a conference. And then, I guess.
But I don't know. I saw that stat, but I don't know
they're probably going to play 2 times in a row. They would have to both make the playoff to do that. That would be pretty incredible. Or they play in a bowl game if both of them slip up here. So that's my team. Pat.
I'm going to be extremely objective here. Extremely objective. Because I'm going to have a twofer here. And those 2 teams are 1, Miami. I think
they're a fun watch.
If you watch a team come back in the fourth quarter, back-to-back weeks, they were down 25 points and they did beat Cal. I know that back-to-back weeks, they have had calls that went in their favor. Insert Miami fan commenting below on YouTube. You guys are still watching our videos. Welcome. And thank you guys for sticking around. But objectively speaking, love them or hate them, they are an exciting football team to watch. And they are a top 10 football team in the country. And then secondly, just to add insult to injury, but I did have a ton of fun watching the Vanderbilt Commodores put 40 freaking points on Alabama, sitting there and watching the football game and saying, wow, I was literally in that stadium a few weeks ago, sweltering, watching our team suffer through overtime. And now they're going to rush the field with, the 1,000 people that are going to rush the field because there's only 1,000 people wearing black and gold there. They're going to tear down the goalpost and then carry it from First Bank Stadium all the way to the Cumberland River, all the way to Gulch, down Broadway. Like, that is not like, a little walk in the park. That is a significant walk. I don't know how they got it. Maybe they had a police escort, but objectively speaking, Diego Pavia, and watching that post-game interview, Billy Ray did say it after we lost to Vanderbilt. He said, they're going to beat somebody that they shouldn't. And it was Alabama.
Number 1 ranked Alabama. Yeah.
The Alabama that just boat raced Georgia for a little bit, kind of took the foot off the gas, and we saw the foot off the gas team. I think they only had the ball for 17 minutes. Diego Pavia had the ball for 43 minutes on Saturday night. But that's a fun team, and I'm excited to see what Vandy does the rest of the year, bolster that Virginia Tech strength of schedule, and make us continually just think of what could have been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's 6 bad quarters from Bama on the defensive side of the ball. I think they've uncovered that as the issue. Obviously starting off hot against Georgia, but then an absolute colossal defensive breakdown leading into 40 points against Vanderbilt. It's a little interesting. I'll group 3 together here to make it easy just because they kind of all go together. I'm enjoying watching 3 bottom Big Ten teams playing good football and having good coaches. Indiana, I've got some stats on Indiana later we can talk about, but my guy who doesn't lose continues not to lose. Illinois with Brett Bielema looking great, put up a good performance against Penn State, didn't score enough points, but went into the whiteout and played good defense, played some good football. And Nebraska, I think maybe they dropped one they shouldn't have dropped, but they've got a fun quarterback. I think they've got a good college football coach in Matt Rule. I think he's the right guy for the Nebraska job. I will admit I thought Scott Frost might be the right guy for the job too on paper, but clearly that didn't go very well. But it's good seeing these 3 teams that for a long time were playing bad football. Indiana's filling up the stadium. Kurt is going on campus telling students they have to go to the game. They can't study. If they miss an exam, it's okay. You got to come to the football game. That's the kind of passion we need in Bloomington. So it's fun watching Indiana. It's fun watching Illinois. And it's fun watching Nebraska. So those 3 together, I think, it's pretty good for, I think, all of college football to see some of these. And look, it's happening, obviously, with Vanderbilt. Some of these bottom conference teams are kind of coming up and playing good football. It's good to see.
I saved this one for last because I do want to take a little bit of a victory lap here. I am loving the Dabo Sweeney. You all said that I suck, and I don't suck. And me and my guys are going to go to church on Sunday, and we're going to, after we beat the hell out of whoever we play on Saturday. Anybody in the world would have looked awful playing Georgia week 1, especially a Clemson team that had a really young group of wide receivers. They have gone on to win their games 66-20, 59-35, 40-14, and 29-13. Okay. The rest of their schedule, they go to Wake Forest, who they're going to crush. They play Virginia at home, who they will crush. They will then play Louisville. They then will play us and lose. But then they have to play Pittsburgh, which is probably their toughest opponent remaining on the schedule. They do that SEC thing where they play a cupcake the week before the rivalry game. So they play the Citadel, and then they finish up with South Carolina. Again, I have no idea if his approach is going to work long-term. I don't think it will, but he has come out and basically it was put up or shut up time for Dabo, and games he has put up. So I have thoroughly enjoyed watching Clemson. Cade Klubnik has really, really matured. Maffa has looked great. That unit is clicking on all cylinders. I think when it really kind of clicked for me, I did not expect him to beat NC State in the manner that he beat NC State.
Well, everyone's beating NC State, but
basically derailed that program, at least for this year. So having a ton of fun watching Clemson. Do we have any other ones on here?
I've got one. I mean, I'm having a good time watching Syracuse just for Kyle McCord having a good year. I mean, so it's kind of fun. I would say, I mean, there's a lot of teams, like we said at the beginning of the year, the ACC, that seem pretty similar. And I think people in Syracuse were talking about Syracuse the same way y'all talked about Tex. I think they were excited for their team. So I don't think he belongs in Ohio State still, but I think that it's been a good time watching the Syracuse team play. He's got good receivers to throw to again, but he looks good. He's 4th in the nation in yards. So it's been fun to watch Syracuse for me.
I got to imagine it's a little bit like if you have a player on your baseball team that you really like, and you're like, you know what? He drives me a little crazy, but I really like him, and he's holding us back, but I'm going to root for him at his new spot. I just went through this with Marcus Smart. Awesome Celtic. Probably needed to move on from him to win a title. He goes to Memphis, rooting for him at Memphis, but still want us to get to where we go. And glad to have Drew Holiday on the team. So,
yeah.
Pat, do you have another one?
Yeah, I'll just kind of along that note, Pittsburgh, it's kind of exciting. I don't know. I have a hard time admitting this, but I do like when Pitt doesn't suck, right? Like it gives me hope for college football. Brings me back to the Big East rivalry. Pat Narduzzi, whether you love him or you hate him, as we've said multiple times, he's kind of one of those guys. You hate him if you're not on his team or he's not on your team. If he's on your team, you'll love him. He's found, I'm not going to call him elite, but his quarterback.
He looks elite.
Eli, he might be the next elite quarterback. Eli Holstein, 18 touchdowns in 5 games, his completion percentage like 67%. He went out there his first start and completed 30 of 40 passes. Like, this kid is legit. Transferred from Alabama, which I just found out this week after doing some research on him. But we do not play Pittsburgh this year. And I hope I don't put my foot in my mouth, because Pittsburgh could go on a run and, upset some folks down the stretch here. I know they have Clemson after Clemson comes to Virginia Tech, but should be exciting to see them down the stretch.
I mean, shoot, maybe we'll see Pittsburgh in Charlotte. Who knows? Who knows how it works out?
Pat, Billy, I made some quick notes while I was doing some research today, and just for fun, rattle me, because we talked about a few teams there. Rattle me your top 5 teams in the nation right now. Go.
Top 5 teams in the nation? You're putting me on the spot.
I am, because I made my list, so I get to look at mine while I just make you rattle them off the top of your head.
Okay. I'm going to go with Ohio State. I'm going to go with Georgia. I'm going to go with – I really – like, the easy answer here is to say Oregon. I don't think Oregon has played up to top 5 potential this entire year. Like, I do not feel that way. So I'm not going to put them in my top 10. I'm going to go with – do I put Miami in the top 5?
Where do you have Penn State? Because you're not putting Penn State in your top 5. You can't.
No.
I don't think I could put Penn State in the top 5. I guess I'll go Alabama. So that gives me Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. I'll go with Miami. I don't know, man. I wish you. Let me pick it apart.
The reason I asked you the question is because I put Clemson at my number 5 team right
now.
I
have Clemson at 5 too.
That's what I was wrestling with, because I was saying Miami should be in the top 5, but if Miami and Clemson played each other right now, I would probably bet on Clemson. Like, yeah. I don't care where the game is either.
I took Ohio State, Texas, Oregon, Georgia,
Texas, of course. Yeah. Texas, I think Texas and Ohio State right now are in a league of their own, just based upon look, they've played who they've played, but they've also done what they've done and had the preseason expectations coming in. Oregon had the preseason expectations and hasn't played up to that level that we believed they would, which is why I'm a little dubious of Oregon. So,
sorry, that was a tough question. Tough to put you on the spot, but Pat, let's get yours.
Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Clemson. Texas is going to be tested big time these next 2 weeks. They have Oklahoma, and then they have Georgia at home. But back-to-back Red River shootout and Georgia at home. It's going to be epic to watch this Texas team. Arch, Quinn.
I'm going to go with good question, Casey. So, Pat, you stepped on my this is my second most fun player to watch. It's Eli Holstein. He's unbelievable. He really is. And that kind of leads me to my question. Cal plays Pittsburgh next week, which I think is a really underrated, fun football game. Cal just hosted College Game Day, lose a heartbreaker to Miami, and Cal's actually staring an 0-3 start in the conference in the face with all of that hype and everything that's come into the season and playing as well as you did last year. So I think that's interesting. Pittsburgh, meanwhile, they're 5-0, looking at getting bowl eligible in the least amount of games that you could possibly do it. But for the player, our next segment is I love watching these players. This is very easy for me. Cameron Skattebo, if you haven't heard of him, is a running back for Arizona State. He is an absolute workhorse. I saw him the first time in the Mississippi State game where it was basically like, hey, we're going to beat Mississippi State, but you're the only person who we can give the ball to, and they know it, and we know it, and good luck. And he was just running people over. The Texas State game where they completely keyed in on him and they kept giving him the ball, who gave other opportunities to other guys. Kansas, who one of the most surprising bad teams in the country. Skattebo had a great game there. But what I love about Skattebo he has like the crazy guy tick where he'll take like a crazy hit, get up, and he's got like a little head twitch. He looks like a horse who's ready to kick you in the face. I love watching him play. Covered head to toe in mud or got turf pellets in his eyeballs. He's just the kind of guy that you love to watch play. I love Cameron Scadaboo. He is my favorite player to watch so far this year.
I watched the Kansas State Oklahoma State game a few weeks ago and watched this guy play. Do you know who this is, Billy Ray?
I have no idea who that is.
This is Avery Johnson. Guy looks like Sunshine from Remember the Titans. He's got this like curly, long flow. Just, looks like a guy's guy. 5 total touchdowns against Oklahoma State at home a few weeks ago. But he is a ton of fun to watch. And Kansas State plays Colorado this weekend, which I think is a sneaky, under-the-radar football game. It's actually the 10:15 p.m. game Eastern time. So for the late crowd, tune into that one. It's at Colorado. But Avery Johnson has been a ton of fun to watch. Underrated.
Nice. I've got 2 obvious ones first. Ashton Gentry, Travis Hunter. Get those out of the way. Those 2 guys are insane.
Can I just say, because I think this is flying under the radar for people. Like a lot of people are probably, I feel like you either are all in on Colorado or all out. If you're part of the all out crowd, at least hate watch them. Travis Hunter does something every single game. It's almost like the Victor Wembanyama effect. He does something insane every game, every single game. If they lose by 40, he does something crazy. You have to watch him play football.
No one doing what he's doing, and it's not even close. I mean, so that's why I kind of put those 2 there. I mean, homer take, I really feel like Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State, 18-year-old true freshman. He's almost to the level of Marvin Harrison. When you're on the field, you think you just throw it to Marvin, he's going to catch it. He's doing things that will blow Marvin Harrison out of the water. He's a true freshman. We get him for 3 years. We get him for 3 full years, can't go to the league. I'm worried about keeping him from NIL. It's a different conversation. Someone might give him $30 million to leave, but he will break every record at Ohio State. So that one's a homer take. One under the radar take I really like is Christian Fitzpatrick from Marshall, who's just a dog down the sideline against Virginia Tech and against
first
Ohio State.
One-handed catch guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he made one against Ohio State too that literally I was like, get him in the portal right now. And then I went to see he's been in the portal twice. So he's come from Michigan State. And then I think he went to Louisville too. And like, this is his 3rd stop. So he's not going to go back in the portal. But throw it up to that guy. You'll see him on You Got Mossed a lot. So he makes some of those kind of catches. And then I'll wrap it up by saying another homer. Obviously, I mentioned Kyle McCord already, but I love watching the running back duo at Ohio State, Judkins and Travion. Like every time you step on the field, one of those guys is electric. Travion's swift off tackle. Judkins will run you over up the middle. Unfortunately, one of those guys will become the guy because one of them's getting hurt. It's just the way it goes. So I don't know which one it's going to be, but either way, I feel pretty good. But those are kind of the players I like watching.
Did you mention Ashton Gentry from Boise State? You did? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Another just absolute
Well, him and Travis are just the 2 obvious answers right now. And I, again, made some notes on the side here. Like right now, the Heisman is only a 2-man race, but I gotta believe, like, I don't think either of those guys are going to win it.
Yeah, it's over. I mean, so much changes, right? And you also have to look like the reality is they have to have the challenge for Colorado is Travis Hunter's team is going to have to win 8 or 9 games. They're not going to give a Heisman Trophy to a team that wins 7 or 6 games. It's not going to happen. And I'll talk about this later. I can see Colorado going both ways. I can see them competing for the Big 12, and I can see them not winning another football game. It just kind of depends on what's going on in the locker room and how this coaching staff, conglomerate of people, figures out how to figure out the end of the year. The question for Boise State is they're going to have to – I mean, we saw this with Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was the best quarterback in college football, and everyone kind of thought, man, fun story. I don't think a lot of people were like, he's going to win the Heisman or like pounding on tables for him to win the Heisman. Boise State's going to have to, at a minimum, make the playoff for them to have a chance to take the Heisman home. But both incredible players.
My take on the Heisman right now, I think it's going to be a year where whichever team's quarterback takes off on a meteoric rise, like Quinn Ewers might win the Heisman. Like, that's a crazy thing to say because he's been out. But if he starts to throw multiple touchdown games, they win on the way to the playoff, he'll win the Heisman. If something like if Penn State goes crazy and wins every game and Drew Allard's throwing touchdowns, it's going to be one of those years where whoever's playing quarterback for the best team at the right time might win the Heisman.
By the way, I think we can all say that we hate that. The Heisman quarterback invitational, I'm not a huge fan.
But it's going to happen.
Previewing this week of college football. Casey, talk to me about the Ohio State game.
I mean, it's all over the board for me. I mean, like if we get Oregon's best game, of course I could see it being a 3-point game. However, if I had to put money on it right now, I think Ohio State will come away with a 2-touchdown victory at the end of the game. I think it'll be a 14-point game. I've seen Dylan Gabriel a couple weeks in a row now make bad mistakes in the red zone, like throwing it straight to the other team. And Ohio State is leading the country in turnover. I think it's points off turnovers. So those things coupled, it could be a really big blowout for Ohio State. But again, everyone keeps telling me how hard it is to play at Oregon. And I'm just confused because it's not a big stadium. Like, I understand it could be built weird where it's loud.
Dude,
it's literally half the size. It's half the size of what we're going to have to do when we go on the road to Penn State. It's half.
So
the size.
it's not always all about how big the stadium is.
How many folks fit inside Cameron Indoor? Like, are you going to say? Are you going to say that Madison Square Garden is more of a tough place to play than Cameron Indoor because it's bigger? Like,
I would have picked like Syracuse's dome versus.
I would love to know if it's 50,000 extra people. I mean, are we talking about a couple thousand extra?
So just saying, Oregon is on the short list of schools that have created an earthquake during a football game. Virginia Tech is also on that list, and we have a measly 66,000 people that show up. So I don't see Ohio State on earthquake Richter scales.
So you're saying that Oregon Stadium and BT Stadium combined is basically going to equal like Penn State Stadium?
I mean, if it's all about how many people are watching, then make that argument. But to say that it's not a tough place to play, I mean, Oregon is regarded as one of the toughest places to play in the country.
Yeah, I don't know why. Because didn't Idaho go there and like almost win?
But they didn't. We're doing almost wins now. I mean, Virginia Tech almost won the national championship when they beat you guys in 2014. But
are you calling Boise State Idaho? Is that what
I'm saying? No, Idaho State.
No, it was actual Idaho. It was actual Idaho.
State,
yeah,
they put Boise
Idaho
this year
State
too.
literally lost by a point at Oregon. I'm just saying, if we lose to Oregon, I don't think it's going to be because we couldn't handle the crowd noise. But that's the only.
Ohio State plays in front of big crowds all the time. I understand, but
I'm saying that's the biggest knock on this game. People are saying, I don't know, they're going to handle the crowd noise.
I think the bigger question mark for me. We talked about this on the phone the other day. Ohio State is used to every single year playing a game in a time zone away. I'm not talking about when they play Nebraska. I'm talking about when they go and they play in their bowl game that's in, the Rose Bowl or Florida or wherever. They're used to going places. I think we've almost been overrating how difficult it was going to be for some of these teams to travel multiple time zones away. My read on this game is pretty simple. I think Ohio State is the best team in the country. I think that they play a bruising. We talked about their defense their offense all offseason. Their defense is one of the best defenses in the country. And it's on a smaller scale, but USC is kind of struggling with the football cultural difference of playing against Big Ten schools. This is Oregon's first time doing it. I just think Ohio State, regardless of where the game is multiple scores better than Oregon. That's just my opinion.
What happens to Ohio State, which sometimes is frustrating as a fan, because, again, I always say, I only get 12 of them a year. I love watching Ohio State play every week. We hold a lot of stuff back against bad teams. We hold a lot of defensive schemes back. We hold a lot of offensive schemes back. We're like, I'm watching the defense play just a vanilla defense against Michigan State. They get 6 yards of carry. I'm getting pissed. And it's like, they're holding stuff back. They're not going to show the full card. I think we're going to see things on the defense we haven't seen yet. I think we're going to see some things on the offense we haven't seen yet.
Cam Ward hasn't ran the ball, at all. And he can do that.
You mean Will Howard?
Will Howard, sorry. Will Howard
Cam Ward living rent-free in Billy's head. Yeah,
that's true. But Will Howard hasn't done anything in the dual threat because he hasn't had to.
It's all about turnovers too. If he goes one turnover or less, we'll be fine. If we start exceeding one turnover, it's going to get obviously pretty dicey. So I think you play a clean game. we could just beat them down, but I think we're going to show some stuff. It's going to be a fun game. I think it'll be close early, and we'll pull away with 2 touchdown victory at the end, which is why we took the 13.5 points.
Patrick, what's your read? Oregon's going to have on some sick uniforms. I know that.
They've been kind of flopping on those recently, though, because they're kind of that shtick of them never wearing the same one. It's kind of like there's only so many combinations left they can do.
That is one of my favorite bets of the week, Ohio State -3. I'm with Casey. I think it might be one of those alternate line games, depending on what I can get. But I really like Ohio State -3. Have you guys checked out the line in Penn State USC? Do we like it? I saw it at Penn State -5, but they are on the road. It's a little different setup. Penn State is not Ohio State.
USC, Penn State, 1-point game. That's what
1-point game?
I think USC is going to go on the road and lose by 1 point. I think it'll be a 23-24 kind of game.
My worry is I think in totality, Penn State is a better football team. I don't think that they can score points with Lincoln Riley. Like, that's it. I think Penn State will have to score to win this football game 28, 35, 32 points. I don't know if they can do it against USC. I just don't. Real quick, tying up the knot on this Ohio State game, Pat, you can be with Casey and myself. We are both on Ohio State -13.5. You can join if you'd like. It's -70.
What is it looking like?
I'm sorry, it's +270.
Okay.
Yeah, +270.
That's fun. Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun just because, like, I think that vice versa, Ohio State could force some turnovers and get some easy points on defense. So, I mean, it's one of these games where I'm glad the 12-team playoff is here, but it's also a little, like, disappointing going into it. I love the nervousness of, like, if I lose this game, my season's ruined. So what I want to do, too, real quick, very quick thoughts on these games. I'm going to go in time order. So, first of all, Utah at Arizona State. The line is Utah -4. Do we have any read on this game? I feel good about -4.
Okay. South Carolina at Alabama.
Cover.
For who?
SC, South Carolina to cover. Bama looks
21.
bad on Bama looks really bad on defense, guys. Like, and I said it early on, like, the Georgia game. I lied bet Georgia a lot. That game still lost, but it wasn't like it was a colossal defensive breakdown by Bama. They had what was it, like 30? What was the score? It was like, was it 30-7? It was a colossal defensive breakdown, and then they give up 40 points against Vanderbilt. Like, unless they're going to fix some things immediately, I don't have a problem with South Carolina covering 21.
Pat, Wisconsin at Rutgers. Chance for the Shianos to bounce back. I think what I really struggle with, and I struggle with this with the Big Ten more than I do with any other conference. When I see the Wisconsin logo, I think of the Wisconsin I grew up on. And for the rest of this year, they haven't lived up to the logo that I'm used to.
Whoa, that's deep.
It's really hard. Like, Wisconsin against Rutgers is like the same thing as Nebraska against Rutgers in my head. The difference is that Rutgers is at home. They're 2.5-point favorites. I haven't watched any Wisconsin football this year, truthfully. So I don't want to make a homer pick here. And just tell you guys to pick Rutgers 2.5.
Do it.
Well, we might have to.
I'll tell you this: if Ohio State played a neutral site game against both, I'm more scared to play Rutgers.
What about the Red River rivalry? Oklahoma is a 14.5-point dog in this game. I know we're going to talk about bets later. I think that's crazy. 14.5 points. Quinn Ewers has been out. I don't know who's playing quarterback for Texas.
They still don't know. I looked it up earlier. They're unsure if he's going to play.
Like, over 2 touchdowns in a rivalry game at a neutral site. I even sprinkled some on money line on Oklahoma because the value's there. I think it's like plus 440. So this game is always crazy every single year. I find if Texas just goes out, I'll be honest, if Texas goes out here and covers this game, I think the perception of Texas is completely going to change. I think a lot of people are like, wow, Texas is really good. If they go out there and just snot bubble Oklahoma, people are really going to start drinking the Kool-Aid. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. let's pretend Texas pounds Oklahoma and Ohio State pounds Oregon. Those two teams are not even in the same ballpark right now with everybody else. And we can eliminate the 12-team playoff because, like, we don't need, like, I don't need Penn State sneaking in with 2 losses at that point. I don't need Ole Miss sneaking in with 2 losses. But it'll be interesting to see. Not to sound like an ESPN broadcaster who doesn't know a lot of football. Like, depends on who's playing quarterback. If Ewers is playing, I think it's not close. If Arch is playing, I have no idea what they're going to do. So
this Oklahoma team couldn't move the ball at Auburn a few weeks ago and is a mismanaged fourth quarter possession away to having another loss. It could be a 17-point spread, if not for Oklahoma making that comeback in the fourth quarter at Auburn. I have a hard time putting any money on Oklahoma here, but at least sprinkling some on the money line, Billy Ray. But just based on their inability, they're pretty one-dimensional. Like, I just don't see it.
I'm skipping over Florida, Tennessee, because it's one. I'm assuming we all have a bet on it, so we'll circle back to that because I have pretty extensive notes there. I am thrilled. I know I'm biased. I'm going to Baton Rouge for this game, and I have no idea what to make of this LSU Ole Miss game. Coming into the season, Ole Miss has a ton of hype, and Ole Miss has not won at LSU since 2008. Some of the names on that team, my favorite college football player ever, Dexter McCluster, Jevin Sneed, Houston Nutt coached that Ole Miss team. Ole Miss had a complete WTF game at Kentucky. LSU, say what you want about Brian Kelly, about the way that he talks, and he's a little weird. Brian Kelly is one of the 5 best coaches in college football. Lane Kiffin.
No.
Okay,
no.
well, that's what I believe. I believe he's one of the 5 best coaches in college.
You said it firmly as if it was fact, but okay.
Okay. Well, he's one of the. Let's put it this way: from a coaching matchup perspective, there is a has-been in Brian Kelly, whose teams have consistently overachieved, and then Lane Kiffin, who I'm not saying it's going to be the same song and dance. The lights have never been brighter on Ole Miss, and this is a huge spot for them. It is a huge spot for them. You can't get that second loss in early October. I think if I had to bet this game, I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be the most fun game, maybe out of all of the top matchups that we have. I think it's going to be a 1-score game, and I think LSU is going to win it.
I just hate that Brian Kelly take. I'm like, still thinking about it.
Brian Kelly has all offseason to prepare, and he can't.
Where has he won any? Where has he ever won anything?
I mean, he's
taken the first game every single year.
Okay. He also has been to multiple national championships.
Lost.
Okay. At some point, the Catholic boys will lose to the SEC men. They're not always going to play up to the talent level. I think it's fair to say that at Notre Dame, he maximized his talent level. Do you not think that?
No, it's a top 3 program for recruiting. What are you talking about?
Oh, it's it's easier to recruit to Notre Dame than it is to Alabama or Oklahoma or Tennessee or any of these other programs?
Yes.
Or Ohio State?
Tennessee?
No.
Yes.
No.
It's a top 3 to 5 recruiting program. It's a top 3 to 5 recruiting program.
I disagree.
Here's my one note I wrote in here. Things I want to know about the SEC: Georgia, Bama, Ole Miss, Tennessee. I don't know who's good in those 4. We just don't know who's a good team in those 4. This will show us about Ole Miss. Like, if Ole Miss goes down and lays an egg against LSU, or even lose. I mean, even if it's a close game and they lose, we're gonna find out really what Ole Miss is in this game. They're one of the 4 SEC teams that I still don't know really what they are. So I'm very interested to see. I'll have them on the small TV at 7:30, so I'll be looking over.
Does anybody want to share any other bets that they have this weekend? I'll run through mine real quick. We talked about Ohio State. I took them at 4.5 when they opened. I took them at 3.5 when it dropped. I took them at 3 again. I'm all over Ohio State. Army minus 23 against UAB. JMU minus 9.5. JMU just beats everybody, so I am on JMU as well. Clemson minus 20.5 at Wake Forest. Boise State minus 20.5 and over 60.5. They're playing against Hawaii. Coach Hilgard's going to have them right. And in their last 3 games, Boise State has scored 62, 45, and 56. So I'm on that. We talked about Oklahoma already. And then lastly, the weirdest line of the week, in my opinion, is BYU -5 versus Arizona. BYU has looked awesome. I fully expect them to cover 5.
I just got to say, I had no idea that JMU lost on Saturday to Louisiana Monroe. Louisiana Monroe got a lot of airtime over the past week of college football cycle because a lot of people compared the Vanderbilt win over Alabama to Nick Saban's loss to Louisiana Monroe at home in like 2006. Completely different scenarios, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this was not a turnkey football team that Nick Saban with John Parker Wilson as his quarterback. But I just had to throw that in there. I had no idea the JMU had a loss.
I've got a few real quick, if we just strictly money line upsets, if you want to run through. Oklahoma, you mentioned. Why not sprinkle that? Cal against Pitt. I know Pat's loving Pitt, but like Cal needs, like you said, they need an ACC win. I don't hate Arizona beating BYU. BYU is number 14 in the country. Is that real? I don't know if that's real.
Yes,
so,
dude. They dominated my boys at Kansas State.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Potential.
And they beat K-State and they beat SMU, dude.
I just have I'm having trouble buying a lot of Big 12 teams, and maybe that's just my problem. Because the last one I'll say is West Virginia is home against Iowa State, which everyone's riding the Matt Campbells right now, which everyone talks about being the next whoever's coaching job is open. It's going to be Matt Campbell. I've seen them here before. That's another money line to watch out for. Upset at home in Morgantown, night game.
West Virginia is a weird team. West Virginia is not being talked about a lot, and they've handled business pretty damn well this year.
I think 3-2.
I think they're 3-2. Just beat Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State has an offensive problem.
They cannot move the ball.
Me
and Griff were betting hard on Oklahoma State against Kansas State, and we were watching that game. I'm like, this is really bad. They cannot move the ball.
All right. So does anybody have anything else? I just have I have a question that I want to ask about the SEC.
I have some questions too, just about 4 or 5 teams and the rest of their schedules.
Yeah.
You go first, Billy Ray.
I was just going to say, Casey, you're going to love this. The SEC is kind of on like fraud watch for me right now. If you can recap the last couple of weeks in the SEC, and again, this happens every single year, teams lose games to other SEC teams and everybody just goes, oh man, it's the SEC. It's a tough league to play in. It's actually a pretty incredible, like benefit of the doubt that you can get. The NFC East has gotten it before where like every team is awful in the NFC East. And like, dude, they lost to the Eagles, tough league. It's like the Eagles won 4 games. Anyway, it's never been this bad. In the last few weeks, Vanderbilt beats Alabama, Arkansas beats Tennessee, but Kentucky almost beat Georgia by almost kicking field goals. Ole Miss lost.
Who South Carolina pounded Kentucky.
South Carolina pounds Kentucky. Ole Miss almost loses to Kentucky. Like,
it's the ACC. It's like Missouri, the ACC Coastal.
It's almost like it's every other conference. Guys, my argument's always been this. It's not me sitting here being like the Big Ten's the best conference. It's that year in, year out, all the conferences are very, very similar. It's top heavy, bottom half heavy. I called Billy after the game. I said, can we please now admit we cannot sit here and be like, Arkansas is a tough team. Vanderbilt's a tough team. Vanderbilt lost to Georgia State. Arkansas lost to Oklahoma State, who we just said cannot move the football. Arkansas lost to that team, and they almost lost to UAB. So there's top upper echelon SEC programs losing to bad teams. And when USC lost to Minnesota, everyone's laughing at USC. Ha ha, horrible team. You just lost to Minnesota. Why isn't Minnesota getting credit? Tough place to play, row in the boat. I'm just saying it's too immediate. USC and Michigan lose because they're bad. Tennessee and Arkansas lose because the SEC is good. It's the same thing.
So I did bring something, though, to the party that Pat is going to play judge on, and it's going to be funny to watch your facial reactions. So what I did want to do is I wanted to do a quick comparison of the top slice of the SEC versus the Big Ten. I matched them up, and I just want Pat to give me his – I don't think Pat's an SEC homer. I don't think he's a Big Ten homer.
Pat's really unbiased.
I don't think Pat like pounds the SEC drum as much as I do. So I think that's the closest to unbiased between us three that I can get. So
Pat
I'm just
might
gonna
pound it more than you do.
I'm on the in between here. All right.
I'm gonna present you with some matchups, and I want you to tell me who you think would win this game. And you can say toss up. That's fine. Ohio State versus Texas.
Ooh, that's fun. Ohio State.
Okay. Oregon versus Georgia.
Georgia.
Okay. Penn State versus Alabama.
Alabama.
Indiana versus Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Nebraska versus Ole Miss.
Toss up.
Michigan versus LSU.
LSU. They have a quarterback.
Washington or Illinois versus Missouri.
Washington or Illinois versus Missouri.
So
Washington.
choose. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Washington.
So what I'm saying is, I believe that the overall health of the Big Ten and the Big 12 is much healthier. I do believe that the SEC is being carried by more than maybe two teams, the UGA and the Alabama and the Texas. But when is this benefit of the doubt going to stop? Because
I think of a good example right there. But like, I mean, you give me Bama and Penn State. Bama just gave up 40 to Vanderbilt. Like, what makes you think Penn State can't put up 40 against Bama? Like, I understand it's one game a week. I understand, but like, you're struggling there with like it's Bama. I mean, like that's why Bama. I mean, it's like they just gave up 40 against Vanderbilt. Like, I mean, Penn State. I understand. We have a buy and sell section here. I'm selling Penn State at the moment. We'll see what they do, but I can't sit here and say that like Penn State can't put up 40 against Bama. I mean, so I get it. I get it.
Pat, what questions do you have? Let's hear them.
Okay. Florida, the Florida Gators. Let's talk about the Florida Gators, because I know we were talking about this today. Going into the season, oh my gosh, Florida's schedule sucks. I don't want to play that schedule. And here we are, and they lost to a Miami team that is better than them. They have Tennessee this week. Who's their other loss?
A&M.
A&M. They lost to an A&M team who's a better football team. And people are freaking out about Billy Napier.
He was dead. They killed him.
Yeah.
He was fired. Like, everyone was like, this guy's toast.
Yeah. So the question is, the Florida Gators, with their remaining schedule, I'm just going to pull it up here.
I have it. It's
computer is freezing up.
They play at Tennessee, Georgia, at Texas, Ole Miss.
LSU.
Oh, I'm sorry. At Texas, LSU, and Ole Miss.
I mean, this schedule, they're like UVA, honestly. They might not win another football game with 7 to play. Tennessee, Kentucky at home, Georgia on the road, Florida on the road, LSU at home, Ole Miss at home, Florida State on the road.
I don't see a lot of wins on that schedule. You're correct.
But here's the thing: if they win, here's how I broke it down. If they can beat Florida State and Kentucky and punch up for 1 or 2 games, they're 6-6 or 7-5. And I think it would be crazy to fire Billy Napier if he goes 6-6 or 7-5 with the schedule, especially given the coaches market right now. Casey, we talk about this all the time. Unless you're going out there and Lane Kiffin is like, I want to be your head football coach, I don't understand how you just fire him and be like, well, let's try something else. All knew, every Florida fan knew this was going to be a unfun season. You all knew that. Yeah. And if somebody told you he was going to go 7-5, which there's a lot of work to do to get there, but if somebody told you he would go 7-5, you'd be like, you know what, Billy Napier, we don't actually have to set him on fire.
But that example is a little hyperbolic because like there's 0 chance they're going 7-5. There's no way they're winning 4 more of those games. Did you hear that schedule? I mean,
I think they're going to beat Florida State, and I think they're going to beat Kentucky.
Okay, that's 5-2.
5 wins.
Yeah, and punch up for 1 or 2 games. Can they beat Ole Miss? Will Tennessee pack it in if they lose a couple of games? Like, I don't know.
Maybe.
They play Tennessee this week?
then they won't be packing it in before then. But they can, if they can punch up and beat two teams, whether he goes 6-6 or 7-5, 7-5, you're definitely not getting fired.
Like,
what if 5 statue right now?
What if he shocks the What if he shocks the cocktail party and beats Georgia? I mean, that's a winnable. That's a stable game.
Cocktails. Listen, they have fired Dan Mullen, who is ripping 8-9 a year. Who says they wouldn't do it at 6-6?
I think it would be crazy. I think it would be crazy.
But it's the SEC in 2024. You know how Auburn's done it a few times over the last few years. You guys know, I mean, how the coaching carousel is in this conference. Auburn fired a coach who slept with a staffer and fired a coach who was there for like 10 years. It's a little different. Yeah, but you know
no, it's different.
A little different.
I mean, yeah, some of that story seems manufactured so they can get him out of there.
Sure. Who knows?
I don't think Florida would do that, but I love Dan Mullen, and a lot of people still think he should be in Gainesville coaching. A lot of people. So, also, we'll move on from Florida. What happens if Notre Dame wins out? Notre Dame, this schedule. And so Notre Dame has completely benefited from these losses that went on here in the week of our Lord 6 of the 2024 college football season. Tennessee, Alabama, Michigan, who am I forgetting? Missouri, and whoever the last one was. Notre Dame is up to number 11 in the AP, and their schedule is absolute cake from here on out.
I need you to put some respect on the service academies. I'm not kidding. That's not hyperbolic. They play both service academies this year. I'm just saying.
And they're
never schedule the service academies. I've always said that at Ohio State. Stop scheduling the service academies.
Notre Dame lost to Navy probably 10 years ago in epic proportions. Like it was a top 5, top 10 Notre Dame team. Billy Ray, sounds like you might be materializing that here, but
Notre Dame fans will scoff at that. This Navy team is going to finish ranked
at home, like less at home. Like no, yeah, I think they know the gravity of playing a Navy team that is undefeated right now. They're undefeated, right? They haven't lost a football game.
No, neither is Army.
They played that Navy and that Army game at MetLife and at Yankee Stadium. A lot of distractions when you go into MetLife Stadium, Yankee Stadium, playing up in the Meadowlands or in the Bronx. Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy, Florida State, Virginia, Army, and that at USC. Notre Dame will be favored in one of these games.
I appreciate the question. I don't think they're good enough to not lose another game in this schedule. Because I'm looking at Georgia Tech, who's a good football team.
Are they?
At Navy. I think they are. I'm looking at Navy. I think they're a good football team. They're 4-2.
Who's Georgia Tech beat?
Let's pull it up.
Florida State in Ireland when Florida State was top 10. It's like beating Sam Howell in Lane Stadium in 2021. Like they weren't that good. They just
Georgia, Army, and USC. I mean, I don't think Notre Dame is good enough for me to just give them Georgia Tech.
Well, that kind of steps on the question, though. I think, Pat, I like your question because you're basically saying if Notre Dame goes undefeated, can they make the college football playoff? There's going to be one thing working for them, and there's going to be one thing working against them. The thing working for them is that they beat Texas A&M, who's going to finish as a top 25 team. If they go undefeated, they will beat Navy and Army, who will probably one of the two will be a top 25 team. So, and they're not going to play in a conference championship. So it really comes down to can they get one of those at large spots? I agree with Casey. I don't think they're good enough to go undefeated, but if they do, I do think that they make the playoff.
Can we look at A&M?
I would bet against them the first week that they play.
Can we look at A&M's schedule? Like, are they for sure going to finish a top 25 team?
We can certainly look at it.
They have to play Mississippi.
They play Mississippi State. They play Mississippi State at Mississippi State, LSU, South Carolina, New Mexico State, Auburn, Texas.
Yeah, they'll finish top 25.
I think worse. Yeah, I think they're going to be in the top 25.
Mike Elko, dude, he rocks.
He does.
The leader of the cult.
Pat, that's a great question. Another question that I have: Colorado So many opinions, so much drama. Their over-under before the season started was 5.5. They currently have 4. The rest of their schedule, Kansas State, at Arizona, Cincinnati, at Texas Tech, Utah, at Kansas, Oklahoma State. If you ran this model, they could go anywhere from 0-6 or 7 to 7-0. I have no idea what's going to happen. Yeah. They are the most fun variable in college football. And it's actually funny because they got so much attention last year when they were kind of fool's gold. They're starting to look like maybe gold right now, and nobody's really talking about them. I think Paul Feinbaum was just so excited when they lost in week 1 or week 2, and they were like, can we never talk about them again? And then the ESPN executives are like, you know what, fine, we won't talk about them again. If they win this weekend, we should start talking about them again.
Well, especially because that conference is so wide open. I mean, I literally listed down here. I said, who wins the Big 12? BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State, Arizona, Utah, Texas Tech, and Colorado. I mean,
they have 7 teams with 1 loss or less.
All those teams could win the conference. So
yes, watch out. Don't sleep on the Mountaineers.
I'm fine with that too. I'm just saying that conference is wide open where he realistically could be winning that conference and being the 4 seed in the playoff.
Do we want to run through the top 25?
Can I ask a question about Dion?
Yeah,
now that we're on Colorado. Pat, Billy, we'll play a fun game I was thinking about today. Dion has made it pretty much known that he wants to move up in college football to be a coach at a bigger program.
In college football or in the NFL?
I think either one. But I'm saying if his next step is staying in college football, let's split the Power 5 teams in half. You're either upper half or lower half. I would say Colorado's currently a lower half college football program. Let's take the Big 12 out of it because I know what
you're going to ask. I love this.
I don't think he would leave. I don't think he would leave to go to another Big 12 school. So in the SEC, Big 10, ACC, which schools would accept Dion as their next head coach? Because I think it has to be a certain type of program. Like, for example, I don't think if Florida's open, they take Dion. I don't think if Florida State's open, they take Deion Sanders. But, like, I could think of 3 schools in each of those conferences that I could see him being the head coach of. So, like, ACC, for example, what schools, let's say all jobs are open, knowing the program, knowing the culture, which 3 ACC schools could you see Deion Sanders being the coach of?
North Carolina.
I love that pick, Pat. I love the North Carolina pick. I wouldn't put it like, I'll be honest, my first gut reaction was, and I think this is more a reflection on the coaching, like just the situation of coaching. I wouldn't put it past Florida or Florida State to hire him. That's neither here nor there.
I couldn't say Florida, yeah.
I think that it's going to be very difficult for him to fit into a top 50 program. If you're a program like, honestly, Pat, North Carolina, Duke, Wake, Syracuse, like one of these programs that they can accept,
Syracuse,
that they're like, hey, we can accept that we're never going to like be a top 10, top 15.
But would Miami not take him?
I don't think they would. I think that would be an awful situation for all parties involved. I think if it's the goal, it's just hold on. I think the goal would be people don't really care about football here, but if we hire Dion, people will care about football. It may last 2 years. It may last 6 months, but people will buy in. And I think, Pat, North Carolina would recruit their kind of like Mac Brown. They'd recruit their tails off for like 2 or 3 years. Every eyeball would be on them. And I said this since Jump Street. Regardless of how this ends with Dion, Colorado would hire him again simply because of the fact that they have gone up in admissions. People are caring about their football team. They're selling out football games. Like, he could win every game, lose every game the rest of his tenure there. And I bet Colorado, if you put truth serum in there, they'd be like, yeah, we'd hire him again.
Yeah. I think 2 other programs. How about Maryland? I think Maryland definitely fits that bill.
I thought about that too. I didn't know. I don't know enough about Maryland, even though they're in the Big Ten, but I could definitely see it.
I don't think Dion would live in College Park.
He doesn't have to live in College Park. He can live in Bethesda.
Yeah, but he would spend a lot of time in College Park.
What other schools, Pat, were you thinking?
Georgia Tech is another one.
I got one. Mississippi State.
So, Billy, I have in the SEC, I had Mississippi State would take a chance on him. I think Arkansas would take a chance on him. And I think if Lane Kiffin were to leave, Ole Miss would take a chance on him. Those are big splash. That's a big splash hire. And then in the Big Ten, here's where I really get crazy. I think Washington would hire him. I think Michigan could hire him if the Sherrone Moore thing is insane. But the number one pick for me, for Deion, could you imagine Deion in USC?
Oh my God.
I mean, like if Lincoln Riley keeps just absolutely flopping, could you not see him going and being like the next Pete Carroll at USC?
It's very interesting and kind of upsetting that USC has kind of just mailed it in on getting really upset with the results of Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley has built up so much goodwill for these Heisman runs that he's almost not being judged fairly on his results. The results at USC have been atrocious.
Bad.
And nothing has really, it doesn't even, I know he's on the hot seat, but it doesn't feel like he is at all.
Dude, if they fired him, they would hire Deion. And Deion would go. And Deion would crush.
I don't know who else they would hire.
Why would you not? Like, if you're USC, why would you not hire Deion?
I mean, you'd
if you're Florida,
sounds like a perfect marriage.
If you're Florida, I could see you not hiring Deion because I think your boosters would just be like in your office every single day being pissed. USC is like, dude, let's bring Deion in here. I don't know. So I think that would be fun to see like which upper echelon program Deion would land. I could see all those happening. I think it would be awesome to see him at a top 50 program.
I loved that game. That was fun. The only other question I had, you mentioned already, the Big 12, like what is happening here? 7 teams with 1 loss, no read on Colorado, no read on Texas Tech, no read on West Virginia, no read on Kansas State. And also Kansas is awful when everybody said they were going to be awesome.
Quick question too, sorry. Do you see a scenario where any Big Ten team that's 11-1 gets left out of the playoff?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know what the schedules are, but for that to happen, I think if you ended up in a situation where Penn State was 11-1, and let's just say hypothetically that Ohio State was 11-0 or 12-0 or 11-1, I feel like, unfortunately, I don't know if there's schedule crossover here, so my point may not make sense, but a school like Indiana, who doesn't come into the season with a lot of respect, I don't know if they have enough time to gain the respect to get that at-large bid. And I don't think that's fair, but I can definitely see that happening, whereas in the SEC, that would never happen. If a team goes 11-1 in the SEC, they're absolutely going to the playoff.
My point is Indiana 6-1. Real quick, tell me if you hear any for sure losses on the way out.
Who is this? Indiana?
Indiana. Okay. Tell me if you hear any for sure losses. Nebraska.
No.
Washington.
No.
Michigan State.
No. They'll win that by 20.
Michigan.
I think if they're
That's
unless they're afraid of the brand, they should win that game. Ohio State's a loss.
So they're losing for sure. One of those games puts them at 11-1. It could get weird for Indiana.
Yeah, and I would hate to see them miss the playoff at 11-1. That would be I feel like that would be a disservice to the league.
Kurt Signetti, I don't lose.
Dude, smoke him if you got him. I
mean, Pat, do you have any unanswerable questions?
I'm ready to move on to hot takes.
Yep.
Here's my hot take. A service academy school will finish within the top 12. Army and Navy are combined 10-0. Here are the big games that they have left. Army plays Notre Dame November 23rd at Yankee Stadium. Navy plays Notre Dame at Giant Stadium on October 26th. Navy plays South Florida on November 9th. And then Army and Navy play each other. What I'm very interested to see is I know.
That's so fun.
I know. What I'm very interested to see Grand Slam. Mets took the lead.
What?
I thought you were killing a bug.
So did I, but then I was like, oh, it's a home run. Grand Slam is crazy.
Sorry, it was 1-0 for the longest time. I love Francisco Lindor. I'm very interested to see when the playoff comes out, are they going to lock certain teams into certain – so if Army makes the playoff and they lose in the first week, will they fall out of the top 25? Like, let's say they're like 21 or 22, they make the playoff and they lose in the first round. Could they finish outside of the top 25, or will they get some benefit for being in the playoff and going –
You mean like the AP 20? Like
I'm just curious. I'm curious to see how they do final year rankings because you're going to –
They would leave them out.
Okay. So
I think
But anyway, I do think that one of those teams are going to finish in the top 12. That's my hot take.
You think Army or Navy?
We'll finish in the top 12. Yes.
Because the problem with that, I think my hot take is Boise State our first lock of the playoff? I think they're locked. Like, I think if they go undefeated, they're getting in before Army or Navy. Like, it's one of those teams. I don't see another I don't see a loss on Boise State's schedule that's going to, which is going to cause them to, I understand you might have a 12-0 Army or whatever, but like Boise State with Gentry, it's probably going to be a higher ranked non-Power 5 team, no?
So if you're Army or Navy and you go undefeated, this will have meant that you probably that you've beaten Notre Dame, which would be a better win than Boise State has on their entire schedule. And it would also mean that you had beaten Navy or Army, who is a top 25 team, unless one of them implode. So if you compare resume to resume, an undefeated Army or Navy who's beaten Notre Dame versus a Boise State team who almost beat Oregon, and we don't even know where Oregon's going to finish.
Right.
I think those two resumes matched up against each other actually favor one of the service academies because of that Notre Dame game.
But don't you think the committee would put in Boise State?
I don't know what they would do.
Because we're committee at that point. We're back to committee. We're back to this whole committee.
I got to be honest. If you buy into like the committee is trying to do the things for the clicks, I think more people would tune in to watch Army or Navy play in one of those games than they would Boise State.
See, I personally disagree.
Depending on where HN is in the Heisman race. That's the only variable.
Gentry. I disagree only because if you told me this is the first year of 12-team playoff, what school over the past 20 years deserves to be in the playoff most from non-Power 5?
Boise State.
Boise State. Sorry, Pat. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's pronounced G&T.
Oh, whatever.
Gentry.
Well, Billy called him HN, so I don't think that was.
We need some help. I'm just excited for maybe the most hyped up Army Navy game of all time, or at least our lifetimes. That's going to be majestic.
Mm-hmm. It's also, you know where it is, Pat?
Where is it? Baltimore?
Landover, Maryland, dude.
Ooh, it's at FedEx. What are they doing there? Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, sorry, Kirk.
And what's super interesting about this game too is that if they're considering one of these two teams to be in the playoff, they're going to have to wait to announce who the playoff teams are to see who wins the game, which is weird because they play after conference. They play after conference championship weekend.
No, but it wouldn't matter because they might win that conference, right?
But then they still have to play that additional regular season game. That's the week after conference football, conference championship weekend. It's on December 14th. You guys can fact check me. It is the week after conference football. It's December 14th.
I'm just thinking why.
Wow.
Special. Yeah. It's crazy. All
crazy.
Right. Let's take this home with buy or sell top 25.
Okay.
You totally just crushed my hot take opportunity.
I didn't know. Oh, my fault. That was disrespectful. Francisco Lindor threw me off the sentence. My bad.
He did. I don't love saying this, but I think Clemson wins out. Wins the ACC championship. I think Miami loses at Syracuse the last week of the season.
Fighting the cords.
Fighting
the cords.
JMA Wireless Dome. If you guys remember, Miami went to Pittsburgh Thanksgiving weekend, maybe 2017, when they were having the big run. They crushed us. They crushed Notre Dame back-to-back weeks at Hard Rock. They go to Acrisure, Heinz Field, fumble the bag at Pittsburgh. Seeing something similar here. I do think they're going to stumble before the end of the year.
Yeah. I like to take two-pack because I can't see them winning out and not fumbling one game after they've almost lost now twice. Like, they have to lose a game.
Unless they're the team of destiny like Auburn in 2013 with the kick six and the miracle at Jordan Hare.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because everybody's kind of waiting for that Miami moment, and Mario Cristobal is trying really, really hard. He's trying really hard with some of the I'm actually going to say he's not trying really hard because we've crushed him for late game anti-heroics, and he's won 2 games at the end of games and handled it really well. So I don't know. I've said it before. I have a ton of respect for Cam Ward, the player. I think he's really, really good. And Miami hasn't really given me a reason to think that they're not focused. I do think that they have quarters of laps, but they don't look like an undisciplined football team. I haven't gotten that read from Miami. I got a question. If Dabo Swinney does go undefeated and wins the conference, and let's say he wins a playoff game or two, would it be crazy for him to jump to the NFL?
Yes, that never works. Name me an example where that's worked.
Why would Dabo want to do that?
Because I don't think that he likes the direction that college football is headed in. I don't think he likes this NIL thing. I think
you don't think he likes $10 million a year and living on Lake Kiwi? I mean, like, I don't understand why he would leave. I mean, like,
I wouldn't put it.
You got to show me an example. You got to show me an example where that's ever worked for anybody.
I mean, I'm not saying he's going to go make the playoffs, but I can totally see him leaving the game because he doesn't like the way that it's currently operating.
Dude, NFL coaches struggle with taking hold of a locker room. He would get eaten alive in an NFL locker room.
Dude, I mean, if he's going to be the offensive coordinator of the Panthers, like, that's fine. And I encourage that. But I don't think Dabo would want to be the head whistle of an NFL program. Like,
okay, let me rephrase. Do you think there's any way that he's not Clemson's coach next year?
No.
Okay.
I think if he does another season where he goes to the playoff, he's there forever. He's there because it was for a while. I thought he was going to be the next Bama coach, and then he kind of went downhill. Whatever. But there's no way he goes to the NFL. Okay. That'll be a worse mistake than Urban made and a worse mistake than Saban made.
Okay. Especially after essentially proving everyone wrong. Mm-hmm. Everyone wrong.
I don't know if it's sustainable. That's the problem. I don't know if that is sustainable.
You got to take like a couple transfers. A couple.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to find out. Like, I don't think he wins the ACC and then bounces.
No, again, he's not going to prove people wrong if he does well this year. He will just have done well this year. I still don't think that this is a way to win college football games in totality moving forward. Like, this is not in my opinion, this is not a sustainable practice. It's not. He's got a quarterback he's had for a while. He's a top recruit. He has an amazing wide receiving core who can all play, who are freshmen and sophomores who have molded into their spot. But I don't think there won't be a coach doing this 5 years from now. I don't think.
And he's also just taking a really annoying attitude for that fan base because if that was my coach and they're like, hey, I won you a couple titles, like, what are you mad about? It's like, we're mad because, like, you can't just win a couple titles and then pack it in forever. I mean, like, you got to at some point get back to that point.
Mm-hmm. Buy or sell? Texas.
Buy.
And I want everybody to buy or sell based upon where they're ranked. Texas.
You're saying, do I buy them as the number one team in the country?
Yes.
Sure. I'll buy it.
Pat?
Yes. Buy.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
Buy.
Oregon.
Sell.
You have buy, sell, and wait. I'll put them in wait.
I'm selling. I'd be shocked if they finish in the top 5.
But yeah, top 5 is, hard to do with. If you're going to lose bad to Ohio State.
Okay, I'll be shocked if they finish inside the top 10. I'll put that down on it. I'll put that down.
I'll take that.
Penn State at number 4.
I'll sell it.
Come on.
I'll sell it, but they're probably going to go 10-2 again.
And yeah, that's not worthy of number 4.
No, I agree.
I think Penn State's going to make the playoff, and I think they're going to lose one game in the regular season. And I think it's going to be to Ohio State. So I'm going to wait. Georgia, number 5.
I'll buy that.
Yes.
I think they have an issue at quarterback, as funny as it is to say. Watching that game, the dude does not know how to read. He's a little Kyle McCordish last year. He doesn't know how to go through progressions. He's like one look and he's toast. I'm
going to wait. I also think it would be remiss not to point out that they had another player arrested this week. It's like the 6th time in 8 weeks. That's
Kirby's dogs.
Dude, they are setting high scores every single week.
I know.
Hey, let me add another tally.
Miami at 6.
I would sell them. I think them as a top.
I like them at like 9 or 10. I don't like them.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Honestly, instead of buy or sell or wait from now on, because I think this makes more sense, overweight or underweight or perfectly weighted. I think that makes more sense.
Was that weighted or rated?
Overrated. Yeah, we'll do rated. I think that makes
weighted.
More sense.
Overweighted or underweighted?
I will say that I think Miami, due to its body of work right now, is perfectly weighted at 6. Alabama at 7.
I mean, I think they're a top 5 team in the country, so they're underrated. But you have to look at their loss to Vanderbilt. So, like,
I think they're a top 5 team in the country.
why do I think they're a top? Sorry, you cut out.
Why are they a top 5 team in the country? They just gave up 40. They didn't lose 10-3. They gave up 40 points.
Because they have one of the best wins in the country.
Against Georgia,
they
almost
have
lost to Kentucky.
Hold on.
What's Georgia proven to make them a bit of the top 5 team? I mean, like it goes around in a circle.
Yeah, I try to look at every single season without especially in the age of the transfer portal and everything. Like
Georgia beat Clemson by 1,000,000 points.
They beat Georgia by 1,000,000. They beat Clemson by 1,000,000 points in the first week of the football season against a Clemson team who was playing actual like high school kids at wide receiver who didn't grow up yet. Like I don't think that the Georgia win for Alabama is as impressive as a lot of people are saying because it exposed so many flaws that Vanderbilt tapped into the literal next week. So
Bama's a top 10 team, not top 5.
Name a Penn State or a Miami win that's better than that win.
It doesn't matter. They've handled business and looked great doing it. Like
yeah, Penn State can't just like fly last minute. They can't just like fly Ole Miss up there to play them. Like the schedules are what they are. Like
I'm just saying.
And that's why I keep getting tired about too. Like these schedules are set like 5 years in advance, and every year we got some dumb people on here, not you guys. In media are like, "Hi, I wish they could play someone better." I'm like, they scheduled these 5 years ago.
Alabama's super impressive win was they won as a 2-point underdog at home. Alabama then went on to lose as like a 40-point favorite against Vanderbilt. Like, I have to see something from Georgia and I have to see something from Alabama before, because going into the season, it's like they're in a league of their own, right? With the Ohio State. I don't think they're on that same playing field.
We aren't treating the Vanderbilt loss as egregious as it should be. It's one loss, but it's the worst loss in SEC history factually since 1978 from a spread perspective.
Tennessee at 8.
I like Tennessee a lot. I think they're legit. Even though their offense was inept against Arkansas, I think their defense is legit, and I think that was a mistake game on offense.
Look, it's good in Norman. I would say by Tennessee, and yeah, they should be like in the top 6.
Neutral site. I'm more afraid of Tennessee than Bama or Georgia.
I agree with that. I could get behind that just because of how high-powered their offense is.
And I think Nico's got like a good. I think he just needs to stay in the pocket. He just fled the pocket too many times last game. Stay in there and throw it.
I'm interested to see what you're going to say about Ole Miss then, because Ole Miss and Tennessee are not that different.
Why?
They're both high-powered offenses that don't wow you on defense.
You know my take on Ole Miss. Don't let me say it again.
Say it again.
I think they're the most overrated program every single year for the past 15 years. They go out and they unload their high-powered offense against Furman, who's barely a D1 college team. Like, and again, the difference between Ohio State and Ole Miss, like I was saying, Ohio State holds stuff back. Lane Kiffin's pumped to score 70 against Furman. They showed everything on offense to Jackson Dart. I just don't trust him at all to win a big game. I mean, I think if you put Tennessee and Ole Miss on the same field, I would put a lot of money on Tennessee to handle that game.
Last one here with the top 10. We're coming up on an hour 40. Clemson.
Yeah, we all know. We all know we buy them.
Top 5, bro.
Top 5.
Yeah, they're my 5. They're my 5.
Again, they know who they were week 1, Billy Ray.
Yeah.
Billy, so they're at 9 or they're at 10. Who are you betting? Who tomorrow Miami and Clemson play? Who are you betting?
I'm betting Clemson. Without a doubt.
There you go.
Last thing, we got a question from Skipper Fan Account. I actually really like this question. What AP top 12 team are you most confident will not make the playoff? And what team not in the top 12 are you most confident will make the playoff, not including group of 5 schools?
Most confident, top 12.
The top 12 team in the AP that I am most confident will not make the playoff is Oregon. That's my pick, Oregon.
I mean, is Notre Dame at 12?
They are.
I'll take Iowa State with bells on.
Okay.
Iowa State's at 11. They're not making the playoff.
I'm going to, it's Ole Miss for me.
Okay.
They didn't look good against Kentucky.
I think they're going to lose this weekend. I really think they're going to lose this weekend.
Billy,
okay.
who do you think Oregon's losing to besides Ohio State? I'm just curious because if they have a one loss, I don't see them missing the playoff. They play Purdue, Illinois, Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Washington. I think they're winning all those games.
Well, here's the thing, though. They're also going to have to compete against. How is the Big Ten going to choose if Penn State makes the playoff or not, or makes the Big Ten championship?
I don't know how any of it's going to be. I'm not knowledgeable enough about the tiebreakers because you could have Ohio State, you could have Indiana 11-1, like we talked about. You could have Oregon 11-1. You could have Penn State 11-1. I don't know what the tiebreakers are.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
We will see.
Does have a little bit of an easy schedule.
Outside the top 12 teams that we are most confident in. Whew.
I mean, I have a fun one.
Kansas State.
You're most confident in Kansas State?
No, that's my
sprinkle pick. I'm not most confident in this, but I'm just going to say it so it's on the record so I can highlight it if it happens. SMU is sitting at 25. SMU has looked like a completely different football team since they changed their quarterback. I would have zero interest in playing SMU. I think SMU has a real chance to make the playoff. I think if SMU and Miami played tomorrow, I'd bet on SMU.
Casey.
Boise State.
Okay.
I don't see them not making it in if they run the table because I can't see Army and Navy ending undefeated. Personally, I'd love to see it happen, but I think that Boise State's going to handle the rest of their business and they're going to be the Group of 5 team, which I think would be so fitting for the first 12-team playoff. Like we grew up with Boise State just being around all the time, so.
Just I don't think we talked about BYU's schedule the rest of the way, did we? Arizona, no. Oklahoma State, UCF, Utah, Kansas, Arizona State, and Houston. Toughest game is going to be the Mormon Bowl at Utah in November, but I think I would take BYU here if I had one bet.
The Big 12 is going to be a lot of fun to watch down the stretch. None of those teams are going to win the playoff, but it's going to be very fun to see who gets into it. Casey, hour 42. Thought this was going to be a quick.
I know I'm a talker. It's my fault. I'm sorry.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. We enjoyed it. Now, for those of you listening, you're probably like, it's an hour 28. We had some headphone issues.
We did.
We did figure those out. So
my fault.
Enjoy the football this weekend. I will be posting plenty about my trip to Baton Rouge.
Me and Pat will be running the Charlotte bars, watching football all day.
It's going to be fun. All right, fellas. We'll chat with you soon. Enjoy the bye week. Enjoy the games. Go football. Go Hokies. Go Bucks.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.